She wasn't cheated on, she wasn't abandoned, she was simply forgotten, married to a man who came home every night, yet never truly arrived. She waited at dinner tables, in silent bedrooms, inside a life that looked perfect from the outside, until one day a stranger didn't fall in love with her, he just listened. And that one small act shattered everything. The soft glow of the chandelier reflected off the polished dining table as Evelyn Carter sat alone, staring at a plate of food that had long gone cold. She had spent hours preparing it, lemon butter salmon, his favorite. Somewhere inside her, she still hoped tonight might be different. The wall clock ticked past 9:40 p.m. Each second felt louder than the last. Evelyn picked up her phone and typed a familiar message. "Dinner's ready. I waited for you." She hesitated before pressing send, then placed the phone face down, as if avoiding its silence might make it kinder. It didn't buzz. It never did. 3 years ago, Evelyn had married Daniel Carter, the man everyone admired. Intelligent, driven, charismatic. He had once looked at her like she was the center of his universe. Back then, he made time, real time. Weekend trips without planning, long conversations that lasted until sunrise. He listened to her dreams and believed in them even more fiercely than she did. But success has a way of changing people. Daniel's tech startup exploded faster than anyone expected. With each promotion, each investor meeting, each late-night call, Evelyn slipped further into the background, slowly, quietly, until one day she realized she had become invisible in her own marriage. She stood up and began clearing the table, packing untouched food into containers. The silence of the house pressed in on her. The home was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows, custom furniture, city lights stretching endlessly beyond the glass. People would call it a dream life, but dreams mean nothing when you're living them alone. As she walked toward the bedroom, Evelyn caught her reflection in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman staring back. The spark that once defined her had faded. She used to be an interior designer, creative, confident, alive. Clients sought her vision. Her ideas mattered. After the wedding, Daniel had gently insisted she step back from work. "You don't need the stress," he had said. "I'll take care of everything." She had believed him. She had believed love was enough. Her phone buzzed suddenly, breaking her thoughts. Her heart lifted for half a second, then sank. It wasn't Daniel. "Coffee tomorrow? You've disappeared on me. Lena." Her college friend. Evelyn exhaled slowly before replying, "Tomorrow sounds good." The next morning, she dressed with more care than she had in weeks and drove herself downtown. The cafe smelled of roasted coffee and comfort. Lena was already there, waving enthusiastically. "You look tired," Lena said gently after hugging her. "What's going on?" Evelyn wrapped her hands around the warm cup in front of her. "He's never home," she admitted, "and when he is, he's somewhere else." "Have you told him?" "I've tried," Evelyn said. "He says he's building our future, but what about our present?" After coffee, Lena convinced her to visit a nearby art exhibition. The gallery was open and bright, filled with bold colors and expressive designs. Evelyn felt something stir inside her, a long-forgotten sense of inspiration. She was studying a piece when a voice spoke beside her. "The way the light is used here, it creates honesty." Evelyn turned. The man beside her looked calm, thoughtful. Early 30s, relaxed confidence. "I'm Noah Reed," he offered a smile. "I curate this space." They talked about art, space, creativity, about design. Noah listened, truly listened. He didn't interrupt, didn't glance at his phone. He asked her opinion and valued it. For the first time in years, Evelyn felt seen. Before they parted, he handed her a card. "If you ever want to talk design again, let me know." That night, Daniel came home close to midnight. "How was your day?" Evelyn asked softly. "Exhausting," he replied, already scrolling through emails. She turned off the lamp and faced the wall, the emptiness settling in once more. What she didn't know was that the smallest shift had already begun, and nothing would stay the same again. Was Noah just a stranger with good timing, or the beginning of everything Evelyn didn't know she was missing? Evelyn hadn't meant to text Noah. That was the lie she told herself as she stared at the small white card resting on her nightstand. It had been 3 days since the exhibition, yet his calm voice and the way he spoke about art still lingered in her thoughts. Not in a romantic way, at least not yet, but in a way that felt grounding. On a quiet Tuesday afternoon, while Daniel was buried in another marathon of meetings, Evelyn picked up her phone. "Hi, Noah. This is Evelyn from the gallery. I keep thinking about our conversation. Would love to hear about your upcoming exhibits." She hit send before she could overthink it. The response came less than 5 minutes later. "Evelyn, I'm glad you reached out. I actually have a new project in progress. Would you like to grab coffee and share your thoughts?" She read the message twice, her chest warming with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Anticipation. They met at a small cafe near the gallery. Noah arrived early, already seated with 2 cups on the table. "I remembered you like oat milk," he said casually. The comment caught her off guard. It was such a small detail, one Daniel hadn't remembered in years. They talked for hours. Noah showed her sketches, asked for her professional opinion, genuinely interested in how she saw space and balance. Evelyn felt her mind wake up, ideas flowing freely. For the first time since leaving her career, she felt competent again, valuable. Coffee turned into a weekly ritual, then twice a week. Noah would text her articles about design, photos of new pieces arriving at the gallery, small observations about colors he thought she'd like. He never crossed a line, never pushed. He was simply present, and that presence filled a quiet ache Evelyn had ignored for too long. At home, nothing changed. Daniel still left before sunrise and returned after midnight. Their conversations remained shallow, functional. "How was your day?" "Fine." They slept beside each other, backs turned, existing in parallel worlds. One morning, Evelyn woke to sunlight and reached instinctively for Daniel's side of the bed. It was empty and cold. She sighed and grabbed her phone. 3 messages from Noah. "Good morning. Found a piece that reminded me of your design style. Let me know if you're free later." She smiled before she could stop herself. As she got ready for the day, she noticed something in the mirror, color in her cheeks, brightness in her eyes. She was dressing with intention again, feeling alive. The realization unsettled her. At the cafe, Noah greeted her warmly. "You seem lighter," he said. "Do I?" she asked. "Yes, like someone who's remembering herself." The words hit deeper than he probably realized. They talked about life this time, not just art. Evelyn admitted how lost she'd felt after stepping away from her career. Noah listened without judgment. "You didn't lose yourself, you just paused." That evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. Evelyn was on the couch, laptop open, researching design trends. Her phone buzzed beside her. "Thank you for today. You inspire me more than you know. Noah." She smiled. What she didn't know was that Daniel had seen it. He froze in the doorway, watching her expression, soft, warm, something he hadn't seen directed at him in a long time. His chest tightened with an unfamiliar feeling. He stepped closer just as another message appeared. "You're an incredible woman, Evelyn. Anyone would be lucky to have you." Daniel reached out and took the phone from her hands. "What is this?" he asked, his voice low. Evelyn's heart dropped. "Daniel, wait!" But it was too late. He was already scrolling, seeing weeks of conversations, inside jokes, coffee plans. The name at the top of the screen burned into his vision. "Noah Reed," he read aloud. "Who is he?" Silence filled the room. And in that silence, everything Evelyn had been avoiding finally came crashing down. Was it just friendship, or had Evelyn crossed a line without realizing it? And now that Daniel had seen the truth, would he fight for his marriage or lose it forever? Daniel's grip on Evelyn's phone tightened as he scrolled, his jaw clenched, eyes darkening with every message. Compliments, inside jokes, coffee plans, long conversations filled with warmth that no longer existed between them. "Answer me," he said quietly. "Who is Noah Reed?" Evelyn swallowed hard. Her heart was racing, but a strange calm settled over her too. Running was no longer an option. "He's a friend," she said. "He owns the art gallery I told you about." "A friend?" Daniel let out a hollow laugh. Friends don't text my wife good morning every day. Friends don't tell her she's incredible. She stood up, reaching for the phone. Give it back. He didn't. Instead, he looked at her, really looked at her, and what he saw scared him. She wasn't defensive. She wasn't guilty. She was tired. How long has this been going on? Asked Daniel. 6 weeks, Evelyn answered honestly. Nothing physical happened. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, pacing the room. Do you have feelings for him? The question hung heavy between them. Evelyn hesitated, and that hesitation hurt more than any confession could have. I don't know, she said softly. What I know is how he makes me feel. And how is that? Daniel snapped. Seen, she replied. He listens. He remembers things about me. He makes me feel like I matter. Daniel stopped pacing. So I don't? Tears filled her eyes. You stopped trying, Daniel. You stopped being here. I was lonely in a house built for two. His anger faltered, replaced by something raw. I was building our future. And I was drowning in the present, she said. You didn't even notice. They stood there, years of unspoken resentment finally exposed. Daniel's voice cracked. Are you in love with him? No, Evelyn said firmly. But I'm not sure I'm in love with you anymore either. The words shattered the room. Daniel sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear I didn't know I was losing you. That's the problem, Evelyn said. You didn't know because you never looked. Minutes passed in silence. Finally, Daniel spoke. From my side, this looks like an emotional affair. She didn't argue. Maybe it is, but it only happened because there was a void you left behind. Daniel nodded slowly, pain etched across his face. What do you want now? Evelyn exhaled. I don't know. I just know I can't keep living like this. Do you want a divorce? He asked quietly. The word felt sharp, final. I don't want to decide anything tonight. I need time, space. Please don't leave, Daniel said quickly. Stay. I'll give you space, but don't walk away yet. She studied him. For the first time in years, she saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. The kind that only appears when something truly matters. I'll stay, she said at last. But things have to change. Not promises, actions. They will, he said. I swear. That night they slept in separate rooms. Evelyn lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if Daniel's sudden awareness was genuine or just panic at the thought of losing her. Morning came quietly. When she entered the kitchen, she froze. Daniel stood at the stove, struggling with a pan. Flour covered the counter. A misshapen pancake sizzled dangerously. I remember you used to make pancakes every Sunday, he said without turning. I wanted to try. Her throat tightened. He set the plate down in front of her. I am stepping back from the company, he added. I can't fix this if I'm never here. She looked at him, unsure whether to believe what she was hearing. Change was finally knocking. But was it too late? Can someone truly change after years of neglect, or is love already past saving? And what happens when the man who woke her up refuses to disappear quietly? Change didn't arrive all at once. It crept in quietly, almost cautiously, as if afraid Evelyn might reject it. Daniel came home before sunset the next evening, not once, but again the night after that. He cooked dinner with her, even though he burned the pasta and laughed at himself while doing it. He asked about her day and waited for the answer without glancing at his phone. When she spoke, he listened, really listened. Still, Evelyn kept her guard up. She had learned the hard way that consistency mattered more than grand gestures. 3 days after their confrontation, Daniel placed a thick folder on the kitchen counter. I did some research, he said carefully. Interior design firms, open collaborations, freelance opportunities. I thought maybe you'd want to go back. Evelyn stared at the folder, her hands trembling slightly. You did this for me? I should have done it years ago. I thought loving you meant providing. I forgot it also meant believing in you. Her chest tightened. Part of her wanted to lean into this moment, to trust it fully. Another part stayed wary, remembering how easily promises had faded before. That afternoon, her phone buzzed. Noah. I wanted to check in. I know things must be complicated right now. Also, I have an offer I'd like to discuss if you're open to it." Her heart skipped, followed by a wave of guilt. They met at the gallery the next day. The familiar white walls and soft lighting stirred something deep within her. Noah greeted her with the same calm warmth, but his eyes searched her face more carefully now. "You okay?" he asked. "I will be," she replied honestly. He showed her the new exhibition plans. "I need a design consultant, someone with vision. I thought of you immediately." Evelyn's breath caught. "You're serious?" "I am. And before you worry, I'm not trying to complicate your life. I just respect your talent." She looked around the gallery. This space had reignited a part of her she thought was gone forever. At home that night, she told Daniel the truth. "Noah offered me a consulting role." Daniel's shoulders stiffened, but he didn't interrupt. "I haven't accepted," she added. "I wanted to talk to you first." He nodded slowly. "Do you want to?" Evelyn thought carefully. "I want to work again. I need to, but I don't want blurred lines, and I don't want to hurt us further." Daniel swallowed. "I won't tell you what to do, but I'll be honest, the idea of you working with him scares me." She appreciated his honesty more than he knew. Later that night, Evelyn sat alone on the balcony, city lights flickering below. She typed a message, paused, erased it, then typed again. "Noah, I'm grateful for everything you've done for me. You helped me find myself again. But right now, I need to focus on rebuilding my marriage. I think it's best if I step back." His reply came an hour later. "I understand. You deserve happiness, whatever that looks like for you. Take care, Evelyn." She exhaled deeply and blocked the number, not out of anger, but out of necessity. Closure hurt, but clarity healed. Weeks passed. Daniel continued showing up, not perfectly, but sincerely. He planned date nights, he remembered her coffee order, he stayed present, even when conversations got uncomfortable. Evelyn began taking freelance design projects, slowly rebuilding her confidence. One evening, Daniel came home holding an envelope. He said, "Open it." Inside were plane tickets. "Paris," he explained softly. "The honeymoon we never took. No work, no phones, just us." Evelyn felt tears rise. "You're really trying." "I am, and I'll keep trying, whether you forgive me or not." She looked at him for a long moment and nodded. "Let's go." Paris may offer romance, but will it bring healing? And when the past still lingers in quiet corners of the heart, can love truly begin again? Paris welcomed them with rain. Not the cinematic kind Evelyn had imagined for years, but a soft, steady drizzle that blurred the city into shades of gray. As the taxi pulled away from the airport, she watched the streets pass by, her reflection faint in the window. Daniel sat beside her, quiet, respectful of the space she still needed. Their hotel overlooked the Seine. The room was elegant yet simple, nothing extravagant, nothing distracting, exactly what Daniel had promised. "No work," he said, placing both phones into the safe. "Just us." The first day was awkward. They walked along the river, hands brushing but not quite touching. They spoke about small things, the architecture, the food, the weather, avoiding the heavier truths that sat between them. That night, they shared dinner at a small cafe, exchanging polite smiles that felt rehearsed. Evelyn lay awake long after Daniel fell asleep. Paris hadn't magically erased the past. On the second day, something shifted. At the Louvre, Daniel watched her study of painting with the same intensity she once brought to her work. "You light up like this when you care," he said quietly. "I missed that." She looked at him, surprised by the honesty. "I missed being someone worth noticing." That night, over wine on the balcony, Daniel finally spoke what had been haunting him. "I was jealous," he admitted, "not just of Noah, but of the version of you I almost lost. He saw you before I remembered how." Evelyn felt the weight of those words settle. "He didn't steal me. He reminded me." Daniel nodded. "And that's on me." The third night, rain gave way to clear skies. They stood at the edge of the river, city lights dancing across the water. Daniel reached for her hand, not urgently, not possessively. She let him. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight. I just want the chance to earn it." She looked at him, really looked. He wasn't the man she'd fallen for years ago. He was quieter now. more aware, maybe even humbler. I'm still scared, she admitted, scared that this version of you disappears when life gets busy again. He squeezed her hand gently. Then hold me accountable. Don't disappear quietly. Don't carry loneliness alone. That night, they made love for the first time in months. It wasn't passionate or desperate. It was careful, intentional, like two people relearning each other's language. When it was over, Evelyn rested her head on his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. She didn't know if love had fully returned, but hope had. On their final evening, Daniel took her to the top of the Eiffel Tower. As the city glowed beneath them, he turned to her, eyes shining. I don't want to redo our past. I want to rewrite our future. He didn't kneel. He didn't propose again. Instead, he promised presence. I choose you, he said simply, every day, even when it's hard. Evelyn felt tears slip free. I need you to keep choosing me, even when I'm quiet, even when I doubt. I will. They returned home different, not healed, but honest. Months later, Evelyn's design work flourished. Daniel maintained boundaries with work. They argued sometimes, they struggled sometimes, but they no longer ignored each other. One night, as Evelyn closed her laptop, she found a familiar card tucked inside a drawer. Noah's. She stared at it for a long moment, then placed it gently into the trash. Some chapters existed to wake you up, not to stay. Was choosing Daniel the right decision, or simply the safer one? And when life tests them again, will love be enough this time? Success didn't arrive quietly this time. It knocked, loud, demanding, impossible to ignore. 6 months after Paris, Evelyn stood in a sunlit studio apartment overlooking the city, holding a signed contract in her hands. Her name, Evelyn Carter Design Studio, printed boldly at the top. The freelance projects had grown into something real, too real. Clients were calling daily, deadlines stacked up, expectations rose, and with them a familiar fear returned. At home, Daniel tried to be supportive. He cooked, he asked questions, he celebrated her wins, but Evelyn noticed something subtle. His smiles tightened when she worked late, his tone shifted when she canceled dinner plans. One evening, she closed her laptop at midnight to find Daniel waiting on the couch. "You didn't come to bed," he said gently. "I lost track of time. This project is huge." He nodded, but his silence felt heavy. The next morning during breakfast, he finally said it. "I'm proud of you, I really am. I just don't want us to switch roles. I don't want to become the one waiting." The words struck deeper than he intended. "I'm not disappearing," Evelyn said carefully. "I'm building something that matters to me. I know, I just don't want to lose you again." The irony wasn't lost on her. Weeks later, Evelyn received an invitation that made her pause. A prestigious design conference in Milan, international exposure, career-defining. She hesitated before telling Daniel. "Milan?" he repeated. "For 2 weeks? It could change everything," she said. "And us?" he asked quietly. That night, Evelyn lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She had spent years shrinking herself for love. Now that she was growing again, love felt threatened. At the conference, surrounded by creativity and ambition, she felt alive, but also conflicted. During a panel discussion, she spoke about losing her voice in marriage and finding it again. The applause was overwhelming. Later, backstage, a familiar voice spoke. "You haven't lost your honesty." She turned. "Noah." He stood there, surprised but calm. "I didn't know you'd be here." Neither had she. Their conversation was brief, respectful, safe. But it stirred something, not desire, but clarity. She had changed. She was no longer searching for validation. That night, she called Daniel. "I ran into Noah," she said honestly. There was a pause. Then Daniel said, "Thank you for telling me." She exhaled. Trust, real trust, was finally forming. When she returned home, exhausted but fulfilled, Daniel greeted her with flowers. "I missed you, but I'm glad you went." She smiled. "That means more than you know." Later that week, Evelyn made a decision. "I'm not choosing between love and ambition anymore," she told him. "I need both, or neither works." Daniel looked at her, truly looked, then he nodded. Then we'll learn how to grow together. That night, as Evelyn sat at her desk designing without fear, she realized something powerful. Love shouldn't ask you to disappear. It should make room. But when two people grow at different speeds, can love keep pace, or will it break under the strain? The call came at 2:17 a.m. Evelyn was half asleep when her phone buzzed violently on the nightstand. For a split second, she thought it was a client emergency. Then she saw the name, Lena. Her stomach tightened as she answered. Evelyn, it's Daniel. He collapsed at work. The world tilted. By the time Evelyn reached the hospital, the waiting room lights felt painfully bright. Daniel's parents were already there, faces pale, hands clasped tightly. A doctor approached a few minutes later, calm but serious. Severe exhaustion, he said. Extreme stress. His body shut down before something worse happened. Evelyn exhaled shakily, pressing her hand to her chest. She sat beside Daniel's hospital bed hours later, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest. Machines beeped softly, each sound a reminder of how close she had come to losing him. When he finally woke, his voice was hoarse. You didn't have to come so fast, he murmured. She let out a breath that sounded dangerously close to a sob. Don't ever say that. In the days that followed, roles shifted again. Evelyn canceled meetings, postponed deadlines, answered emails at midnight. She slept in a chair beside Daniel's bed, held his hand through restless nights, and listened as doctors warned him about burnout. I thought I had learned balance, Daniel admitted one evening. I didn't realize I was slipping again. Evelyn nodded. We both did. At home, the apartment felt different. Fragile, as if one wrong move could crack everything open again. The crisis had forced them into honesty they couldn't avoid. One afternoon, Daniel spoke quietly. When you went to Milan, I was afraid, not that you'd leave, but that I'd never be enough for the life you're building. Evelyn looked at him, surprised by the vulnerability. I don't need you to compete with me. I need you to walk beside me. Silence followed. Then Daniel said something she hadn't expected. I want to talk to someone, a therapist. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes. Her eyes filled. I'll go too. Therapy wasn't easy. They argued, they cried, they uncovered resentment they hadn't known how to name. Evelyn admitted how lonely she had felt. Daniel admitted how success had become his armor. For the first time, they learned how to fight without destroying each other. One evening, after a particularly heavy session, Evelyn sat alone on the balcony. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. I heard you spoke in Milan. I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you. Noah. She stared at the message for a long moment. Then she deleted it without replying, not out of fear, but out of choice. When Daniel joined her later, she leaned into him naturally. I realized something today, she said. Love doesn't survive on good intentions alone. It needs effort every single day. Daniel kissed her forehead. Then let's keep choosing it. Below them, the city hummed, busy, relentless, alive. Evelyn knew life would never be perfect. There would be deadlines, arguments, moments of doubt. But this time, she wasn't invisible. She was present, and so was he. But healing isn't linear, and just when everything feels stable, the past has a way of returning. Stability felt unfamiliar, like a quiet room after years of noise. Evelyn almost didn't trust it. Life had settled into a rhythm. Therapy sessions every Thursday, dinners that involved conversation instead of silence, weekends that belonged to them instead of work. Daniel kept his promises. He left the office on time, he rested, he listened. For the first time in a long while, Evelyn believed they were moving forward. Then the email arrived. She noticed it while Daniel was in the shower, his laptop chiming softly on the desk. She wasn't snooping, she'd never done that, but the subject line caught her eye. Urgent, acquisition review, Novacore proposal. Novacore. The name hit her like a sharp inhale. It was the company Daniel had once sworn he'd never work with again, the same corporate giant that had tried to buy his startup years ago, demanding full control, demanding him. Back then, he'd said no. He'd chosen independence, chosen them. Evelyn closed the laptop without opening the email, but the unease stayed. That evening, she brought it up gently. "Novacor reached out?" she asked. Daniel froze for half a second, just long enough for her to notice. "Yes," he admitted, "they want to revisit the acquisition." Her heart sank. And it's complicated," he said. "It's a huge opportunity, Evelyn. Financial security, influence, stability." She held his gaze. "At what cost?" Silence. "They want me to relocate, New York, full-time." The room seemed to shrink around them. "For how long?" she asked. "At least 2 years." Evelyn's chest tightened. Her work, her studio, the life she had just rebuilt. "You said you were done sacrificing us for work." "I am," Andiel insisted. "That's why I haven't given them an answer." "But you're considering it." "Yes," he said honestly, "because I'm scared. Scared that if I don't take this, I'll fail again. Scared that balance won't be enough." Evelyn looked away, emotions colliding inside her. "You're afraid of losing control," she said quietly. "And you're afraid of losing yourself," he replied. They sat with that truth between them. Over the next few days, tension crept back into their home. Not loud, not explosive, but sharp, careful. Evelyn buried herself in work. Daniel paced more, slept less. One afternoon, Lena met with coffee. "He's choosing between his old life and our new one, and I don't know if love wins this time." Lena studied her carefully. "What would you choose if the roles were reversed?" That question followed Evelyn home. That night, she stood in her studio, surrounded by sketches and samples, reminders of how hard she had fought to reclaim this part of herself. She imagined packing it all away, starting over again, shrinking again. Her phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Can we talk? Really talk?" They sat on the couch, closer than they'd been in days. "I don't want to go back to who I was," Daniel said, "but I also don't want to resent you if I walk away from this." Evelyn took a deep breath. "And I don't want to resent you if I disappear again." He nodded slowly. "So what do we do?" She reached for his hand. "We stop pretending there's an easy answer." For the first time, neither of them tried to win the argument. They simply faced the truth. When love and ambition demand opposite things, who bends and who breaks? Daniel didn't sleep that night. Evelyn knew because she didn't either. They lay side by side, staring at opposite walls, the space between them filled with everything that hadn't said. By morning, the silence felt heavier than any argument. Daniel broke it over breakfast. "I gave Novacor my answer." Evelyn's heart stuttered. "And?" "I turned them down." She looked up sharply. "Daniel!" "Let me finish," he said gently. "I realized something at 3 a.m. Every time I've chased security, I've lost what actually made me feel safe." Tears welled in her eyes, uninvited. "I don't want a life that looks impressive from the outside but feels empty inside," he continued. "I don't want to keep choosing fear over us." Evelyn stood and walked to him, resting her forehead against his. "Thank you," she whispered, "for choosing presence." He held her tightly, as if afraid she might disappear, but relief didn't mean certainty. Weeks passed, and life tested that decision quickly. A major client pulled out of Daniel's company. Financial pressure returned. Stress crept back in, subtle but persistent. One evening, Evelyn found Daniel staring at spreadsheets, jaw clenched. "You okay?" she asked. "I will be," he replied, but his tone said otherwise. That night, Evelyn made a choice of her own. She accepted a high-profile project overseas. 3 months, long hours, big exposure. When she told Daniel, his face fell before he could stop it. "You're leaving?" he asked.
I'm growing, she corrected gently, and I need to know you can stand beside me without shrinking. He nodded slowly. Then go. I'll hold the space. Distance tested them in new ways. Time zones, missed calls, exhaustion. But something had changed. They didn't hide anymore. They talked through fear instead of around it. They argued honestly. They apologized faster. One night, alone in her hotel room, Evelyn received an unexpected message. I'm proud of you for choosing yourself. Daniel. She smiled through tears. When she returned home, Daniel was waiting at the airport. No flowers, no speeches, just presence. Later that night, Evelyn sat on the balcony, city lights flickering below. She realized love hadn't become easier, it had become braver. They weren't perfect, but they were real. But real love still carries risk, and one final test remains.
The invitation arrived on an ordinary Wednesday. Evelyn almost ignored it, assuming it was another networking event or client dinner. But when she opened the envelope, her breath caught. Renewal of vows, private ceremony, hosted by Daniel Carter. Her hands trembled slightly as she read the note inside. Not because we have to, because I want to choose you again, openly, honestly, without fear. She sat there for a long time, staring at the words. That evening, she found Daniel in the kitchen, nervously wiping an already clean counter. You didn't ask me, she said softly. He looked up. I didn't want to pressure you. This isn't about fixing anything. It's about asking, after everything, if you'd still choose me. The honesty in his voice undid her. I don't know if I'm the same woman you married, Evelyn said. I know. That's why I'm asking again. The weeks leading up to the ceremony were quiet, reflective. Therapy sessions grew deeper, conversations turned inward. Evelyn confronted fears she hadn't named before. The fear of settling, the fear of outgrowing love, the fear of choosing wrong. The night before the ceremony, she couldn't sleep. She stood alone on the balcony, city humming below, memories swirling. The loneliness, Noah, Paris, Milan, the hospital, the choices, the cost. Daniel joined her, careful not to touch her first. You don't have to say yes tomorrow, he said. I'll understand. She turned to him. That's what scares me. He smiled sadly. Love isn't certainty, it's willingness. The ceremony was small, intimate, no spectacle, just close friends, family, and honesty hanging thick in the air. When Evelyn walked toward Daniel, she didn't feel swept away. She felt grounded. The vows weren't rehearsed. I promise to stay present, Daniel said, voice steady. To listen when it's uncomfortable. To never again confuse success with worth. Evelyn swallowed hard before speaking. I promise to never disappear quietly, she said. To speak when I'm lonely. To choose myself and us without resentment. When it was over, there were no cheers, just quiet tears and known smiles. Later that night, they lay together, tangled in sheets, windows open to the city air. Are you happy? Daniel asked. She thought carefully. I'm honest, and that feels like happiness. He kissed her temple. That's enough for me. Months passed. Life didn't soften out of respect for their vows. There were still arguments, missed calls, bad days. But there was also laughter, accountability, and repair. One evening, as Evelyn closed her studio late, she caught her reflection in the glass. She didn't look smaller. She didn't look lost. She looked whole. At home, Daniel waited with dinner, burnt but heartfelt. You still choose me? He asked lightly. She smiled. Every day. But somewhere deep inside,
Evelyn knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the calm before one final truth revealed itself. But what happens after choosing love when the world tests that choice one last time?
The realization didn't arrive in a dramatic moment. It came quietly on an ordinary Sunday morning. Evelyn stood in the kitchen barefoot, sunlight spilling across the floor as coffee brewed. Daniel sat at the table reading, glasses slightly crooked, completely at ease. No tension, no urgency, just peace. And suddenly, she understood. She had spent years thinking love failed because someone stopped loving. But love had never disappeared. Presence had. Daniel looked up and smiled. "What?" She shook her head, smiling back. "Nothing, just realizing how far we've come." Later that day, Evelyn locked her studio after finishing a project that would soon be featured in a national design magazine. Her name would be there, alone. No attachments, no explanations. She felt proud. Not loud pride, solid pride. At home, Daniel surprised her with dinner reservations. "Just because," he said. At the restaurant, as they talked and laughed, Evelyn noticed something striking. She no longer felt like she was waiting for love. She was participating in it. That night, lying in bed, Daniel asked quietly, "Do you ever think about the what-ifs?" She knew what he meant. Noah, the past, the life we almost lived. She considered the question carefully. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but not with regret." Daniel turned toward her. "What then?" "With gratitude," she said. "He reminded me I deserved to be seen. You reminded me that being seen doesn't have to mean leaving." Daniel reached for her hand. "You never needed saving, Evelyn." She smiled. Exactly. That was the truth she had spent years trying to articulate. She hadn't wanted escape. She hadn't wanted another man. She hadn't wanted perfection. She had wanted space to exist fully. Months later, Evelyn stood on a small stage at a creative conference, sharing her story, not about marriage, but about identity. "Love doesn't fail because people stop caring," she said to the audience. "It fails when someone becomes invisible, when ambition replaces attention, when silence replaces honesty." She paused, then added, "And it survives only when both people are brave enough to keep seeing each other again and again." Daniel watched from the audience, eyes full. 5 years later, life looked different, but not flawless. They argued sometimes, they recalibrated often, but they never returned to silence. Evelyn's firm expanded. Daniel found balance. They chose presence daily. Not perfectly, but intentionally. Some nights, Evelyn would stand on the balcony, city lights glowing, and think about how close she had come to losing herself. Not because someone else took her, but because she had stopped asking to be seen. She learned the most important truth of all. Love is not about being chosen once. It's about being noticed every day. And she would never again accept anything less. If this story resonated with you, ask yourself one question. Are you being loved, or are you simply being accommodated?